This is one of the very important document when it comes to express entry process. In fact, if it is not done in the right manner, it could either result in delay in PR process or in some cases even rejection. So in today's video, we will be covering what is proof of fund, how much fund to have, what are the documentation required, what is accepted, what is not accepted, and many questions we have in mind when we are starting to organize this proof of fund. I will also be sharing a template, sample template, which will answer all your further question. And with this, you will be not just confident, be able to do your documentation first time right. Before that, if you're new to my channel, please go ahead and press the like button as well as subscription button so that you keep getting all my future videos. I make videos related to Canada immigration the way you want to understand. And I also share my experience as a new immigrant here. So I will take a pause of 5 seconds so that you can go and subscribe and not forget. I'll in fact give you a count of 5 seconds. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. Thank you for subscribing. Now, without wasting much time, let's go to the IRCC website and see what is getting asked. This is the official IRCC website where you will find the required information, and let's see what is being asked as proof of fund. Okay, here on this website, I'm giving the link below. You can see that who needs proof of fund and who does not need proof of fund is mentioned. Basically, if you are a federal skilled worker or trade category, you need proof of fund. And if you are a Canadian experience class category or have a valid job offer, then you don't require proof of fund. And this makes complete logic, which as we go through the document, we will understand. How much money is needed? Now, it depends on the size of the family. And it is again clearly defined what family is and what other ifs and buts you might have in your mind. For your ease, say you are a family of 3 people. Whether they are already PR or citizen or not coming to Canada with you, still need to count them in the head count. So say a family of 3 head count. How much is required? 19,836 Canadian dollar. And so is for the 2 head count, 16,135. You can check rest of the head count and say if there is a family size which is bigger than 7. So for each family member, you need to add this 3,492. Okay, this part is clear on how much money to bring in terms of Canadian dollar. Now, what is required to be kept in mind is that when you're coming from your home country and you will have to do a currency conversion. So you'll have to keep a factor of safety because you will be going to either a bank or an institution where the currency can be exchanged. And when you go and do the currency exchange, there is a conversion loss. Now, what I did was I converted my home currency to Canadian dollar and then I added a factor of safety, that is in terms of conversion, the conversion loss which will happen. And then I rounded off that to the nearest $500 on the upper side. So that with all this factor of safety, I'm confident that I will have to at least have this much money in my account to be on a safe side. And it works well. Now coming to what is accepted as proof. So you look at the screen, fund must be readily available. Like if you require money to be spent now, it must be ready. And also example is given that you cannot use equity on real property as proof of settlement. It is straightforward and clear. You cannot also borrow money from another person and you must be able to use this to pay the cost of living for your family even if they are not coming. Remember, we discussed that if there is a family of 3, however, say one person is not joining, now still you need to show the proof of fund for 3 people. If your spouse is coming with you, you can count money you have together in the joint account. So how can you prove this? It's very simple. That is where letter of explanation as well as no objection certificate comes into play. In letter of explanation, the primary applicant writes that this money in the joint account will be used as fund when settling down in Canada. And the spouse gives a no objection certificate saying that this money can be used at will when settling in Canada. It's very simple. It's only an acknowledgement that this money can be used and it can be done in a plain paper. One need not go through a notary or any other documentation. As long as you have the source of this income, that it is earned income, it is not borrowed, and you have all the transaction record, it's good to go. IRCC wants to know that it's a legitimate money, it is not borrowed, and once you're here in Canada, you will use this money when, say, you don't have initially job and you have all this settlement going on, you'll be able to expense out of this fund. That is what they want to know and see. So it's very simple. Now, what can be shown as proof of fund? Saving bank account and FDs. They're very simple. Today you withdraw the money, it's there in your hand. So that gives confidence. When it comes to mutual fund and stock, while it is your money and it is there and you can liquidate, it is open to market risk. And what I did was I liquidated that money and I transferred that into my bank account. So the source is known from where that money has come into my saving account, and that also gives confidence to me that the money value will remain intact, and it gives confidence to IRCC. So anything which is related to these market fluctuations, if I am not confident, how will IRCC feel confident? So that was my approach. Now, loan is not allowed. However, if you receive money as a gift from your family member, it is allowed, provided you have a proper gift deed and in your letter of explanation, you mention that this has been received from family member and you are attaching a gift deed along with that. So this is allowed. I'm sharing a format which you can customize as per your requirement. Other than that, for the money you have in your saving account and FD, you will have to reach your bank or financial institution and ask the document in the format IRCC wants. Now here I will share my experience of reaching out my bank where they did not give the document in the manner IRCC asked. So let's go and look at what is the requirement IRCC has given, and I will share my experience along with that. So you see on the screen, let me read out to you each of the point and explain. The document must be printed on the financial institution letterhead. Include their contact information, address, telephone number, and email address. So what happened in my case was when I reached bank and I said that this is the format I want, they refused. They said they have a standard format and that is what they will give. So once it was printed by them, I saw by default all banks, they have their name written on the document and the address, telephone number, as well as the email address is mentioned. So you should not worry if they refuse. In my case, I was little skeptical like how it would go. So this is covered. The document includes your name. So in my case, about 6 to 7 months of bank statement was printed by them and they just put a seal and signature on that. So that had my name, account number that is mentioned, date each account was opened that they refused to give. But since the account balance was there for many months, in case IRCC would have come and asked any question, I was prepared with the answer as I had all transactions which I had made with bank where they refused to give all this detail. Current balance of each account. So this was the 6 months to 7 months of printout. It had all the detail. Average balance for past 6 months. There was a summary at end of the balance report. That was it. There was no additional work which bank did. So balance on the date of printout. This was also there. Now in our case, as I said, we were able to match almost what IRCC required, and in some cases where the bank was not obliging to what was being asked, we had a email transaction which we would have used in case IRCC came up with any query. So we had done that backup. As long as the money is legitimate, it is not borrowed, and I am transparent as much as possible, I was confident that I will not have any problem with IRCC, and even if there is a question which gets erased, I can respond to that. You see, I'm here in Canada and that should give you confidence. Wherever the bank had refused to give me something, everything was documented in mail and I just attached those mail along with the proof of fund and I wrote in letter of explanation that bank has refused to provide this. That's it. In fact, in my saving bank account, I had money much more than what IRCC had asked for. So that gave me comfort. I was also contributing to EPF as I was working, and this money would have been available when I quit my company. I did not include this as proof of fund, and I also know that many of them include this as proof of fund. So this is one tip for you. Once this proof of fund document is submitted, if there is any fluctuation in terms of the currency price, you really don't have to worry. Now let's go to the website and read rest of the details. Once you get your COPR and you plan to land, it is clearly mentioned, bring as much as you can. Only thing, if you carry cash more than 10,000 Canadian dollar, you need to tell the border officer. And it is clearly mentioned when they say cash, what are the things which are considered as cash. Cash, stock, bond, debentures, treasury bill, and banker's draft, check, money orders, traveler's check. So all these things, if it is more than 10,000, it has to be declared at the time of immigration to the border officer. So friends, this brings end to today's video. I hope you found this video informative. If you liked it, please press the like button and do comment and let me know if you have any questions. Also share with your friends who have been thinking of coming to Canada so that they know how to get the documents arranged for proof of fund. Thanks for watching Canada Driving Tested.